Okay, in this video we're going to cover two things: using a parameter to control a reference line, and then creating an action parameter, or I should say a parameter action. Before we begin, let's just look at the visualization to get an understanding of what we're working with. We're using the Superstore data set, and I've created a simple bar chart looking at sales across region and category. So it's fairly simple. And what I want to do is add a reference line. So let's just look at the reference line. So I'm going to my analytics pane. I'm taking a reference line and I'm just dragging it onto my pane. And this is going to give me an average. We can modify different things, but this is the overall average. Now, what I would like to do is have this bar change depending on what I select. So if I want to just look at the West region or the East region or just the technology items, I want this reference line to shift and show me the average of that. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's remove that reference line, and then we will go back and start developing what we need. The first thing we need is a parameter. We always have to start by creating a parameter. I'm going to call this parameter average reference line, and I'm going to leave everything else exactly the same because the value of this parameter, we're going to create an action for it, will be based on whatever marks that we're selecting. So that's fine. So we've got that average reference line. Now let's go back to the analytics pane. I'm going to drag that average reference line on for the table again, and instead of saying create this line based on the average of sum of sales, I'm going to say base it on this parameter. And the label, let's leave it as a value. Let's not have a tooltip. Let's see, let's make this, I just want it to stand out. We'll make it red and click OK. Now it's hard to see it, it's way down here because remember the default for this parameter is 1, so that's why it's showing up there. So we've created the parameter, we've applied the parameter to a reference line. Now let's use it, and to use it I'm going to create an action. So we're going to go to worksheet, action, and then I'm going to add an action and choose change parameter, and I'm going to just call this modify reference line. We're going to use this worksheet reference line parameter. I then need to choose the target parameter, and that's the average reference line. I'm going to base this on the sum of sales, right? That's because we're using this in the row. And I'm going to choose the aggregation level average. Now, this is an important aspect of parameter actions. Here, the bars we're looking at are based on sum of sales, so the aggregation is sum, but we could change that level of aggregation in this parameter action, and we're doing that here with average. And then when we clear the selection, in other words, when we unselect the different bars, we have a choice: keep the current value or set the value to something else. I'm going to say set the value to something else so that the reference bar drops all the way down and basically out of sight for us. So I'm going to click OK, and let's see how this works. So if I choose just the West region, you'll notice that now my reference line is showing what the average of just the West region is. If I deselect it, my reference line basically goes all the way to the bottom and kind of out of the way. If I want to look at all the average of all the furniture across four regions, I could do that, and we could see that in the West and the East the sales are above average, and in the Central and the South they're below average. And you can do any combination that you want. Whatever you happen to be selecting, you could select things by clicking on headers. So now we're looking at what's the average. This doesn't make much sense, but the average of office from the West region, furniture from the East region, and all three categories in the South region. That averages $164,000, and you can see the reference line adjusted for that. So this is an example of using a parameter in a reference line and in creating a parameter action on the worksheet.